deal has now finally been done. So perhaps we could put David up for an Oscar.
While David Cameron proudly heads home with a newly won special status for his country in the EU, some question just what's so special about the deal. After the US targets an ISIL training base in Libya, killing more than 30 militants, Washington is asked to explain the legality of the bombing campaign. Treasured island. Italian children try to outbid a foreign banker who wanted to snap up a slice of their Italian life. Midday in Moscow. Thanks for joining us on RT International. We have your latest worldwide news. After winning his battle in Brussels, David Cameron will now have to convince his own cabinet that the special status deal he secured is worth backing. The meeting is set to start in an hour's time. And on his Twitter feed 1 hour ago, the Prime Minister said he'll finally announce the date of the Brexit referendum following the cabinet meeting. Now, that is after he managed to convince Europe's leaders to agree to concessions in order to keep Britain in the EU.
I've negotiated a deal to give the United Kingdom special status inside the European Union.
It was hours of marathon talks, with some lasting until 5 in the morning. As the details were painstakingly chewed over, it meant quite a few meals were either missed or delayed. And that's as the British Prime Minister tried to satisfy his hunger for a deal with Brussels. Even Angela Merkel apparently grew tired of Cameron's appetite and popped out for a good old bag of chips. So here is what David Cameron has battled for. From now on, the UK won't be forced to bail out fellow members, while British businesses will enjoy equal rights to their Eurozone counterparts. There'll also be a 7-year emergency break on benefits for EU migrants. Though it seems Cameron's enthusiasm for the deal is not shared by everybody back at home.
The deal has now finally been done. So perhaps we could put David up for an Oscar. This deal that he's done does not address the fundamental issues that British people care about. It does not address the issue that our Parliament is not able to overrule bad EU law. It does not address the issue that we should not be paying £55 million a day to a club whose accounts have not been signed off for nearly 20 years.
RT's Harry Fear in the Belgian capital, now with a recap of the summit.
What he has managed to get out of the other 27 EU leaders is a special status for Britain in the bloc. Other EU heads of state have been applauding the deal as fair and good. But no doubt among the other 27 EU states there will be some that might feel a bit bitter about this, because in Cameron's own words, they've spent 2 days discussing one country. And indeed, the UK now does have a special relationship with the EU bloc. Who's to say another country may now not ask for something similar?
You see, as the UK has gained special status, other states will want it too. Cameron has created a multi-speed EU.
Why should the UK be given special status? This is unfair towards all the other peoples of Europe.
France, Germany, as industrialized nations, didn't ask for a special status, yet a mostly service-oriented UK did?
And out of the blue background behind the podium then came this bogeyman. He said the EU must now stick together to combat shared security threats like, wait for it, Russian aggression.
For as long as we stay in the European Union, Britain will be in there, driving forward the single market, bearing down on regulation, championing the cause of free trade, and helping to ensure that Europe remains open to the world and robust, for instance, in the face of Russian aggression.
He then went on to admit that he hasn't managed to solve all of the EU bloc's problems, or indeed all of Britain's problems with the EU bloc, but Eurosceptics are now saying he hasn't even really begun to solve many of Brits' concerns with the EU bloc. So this might all leave Britain stronger, perhaps, but what does this all say about the health and strength and unity of the Union itself?
Cameron is back from Brussels now, but it seems he's still got plenty of work to do on this issue, particularly after his close ally, the Justice Minister, pledged to campaign for quitting the bloc despite any newly won concessions.
Now, let me say about Michael Gove. Michael is one of my oldest and closest friends. He has wanted to get Britain to pull out of the European Union for about 30 years. So, of course, I'm disappointed that we're not going to be on the same side as we have this vital argument about our country's future. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised.
Well, there's been a slight swing in favour of a Brexit among the British public. Latest poll published while Cameron was busy battling away in Brussels. It does give a 3% lead to those believing Britain will be better off out of the club. That's a view shared by former British MP George Galloway.
I think it's all theatre, smoke and mirrors, a smoke screen, as Aaron Banks just put it. I'm for leaving the European Union because it is a fundamentally anti-democratic organisation which cannot be reformed. A lack of democracy is built into its very timbers. And after what happened to the people of Greece, the people of Portugal, and other countries crushed underfoot by austerity, I'm for an independent, democratic Britain. We're not in the Eurozone, won't be joining it, but we are affected by the cold blast of austerity which the European Central Bank dictates. So for economic reasons and for foreign policy reasons, I believe that it's time for Britain to go. And moreover, I think we are going to go.
Washington has confirmed US fighter jets carried out airstrikes on an Islamic State base in Libya. More than 40 people were reportedly killed. Among them, the mastermind of last year's terror attacks in Tunisia. However, questions have been raised over the legality of the bombing campaign.
There are two ways to gain legitimacy. One would be through mandate, authorization from the Security Council. The other one, if the legitimate government calls on a foreign power to intervene for specific purposes.
And it appears actually naming Libyan officials who could have authorized the US bombing campaign is not that easy. Here's Guy in Chichikan.
Question under what legal authority the U.S. is carrying out the bombings in Libya becomes very important. And I was at the State Department trying to find out just that. Take a listen.
It was in full accordance with international law. We've talked about this many times. I'd refer you to the Department of Defense to speak about specifics.
Not the AUMF. It was international law.
I mean, exactly. But I'm not going to get into details here. The Libyan authorities were aware that we were going to carry out these strikes.
But this new unity government, is it functioning? What authorities?
The new, well, I mean, there's obviously Libyan authorities on the ground. It's not. We're still working to stand up the government and national accord. We want to see it returned and establish itself in Tripoli. That's longer term, but obviously there is some governmental structure present in Libya at this time.
Just to clarify the confusion, the authorization for the use of military force under which the Obama administration is supposedly acting in Libya is not international law. It's an authorization that the U.S. Congress gave to the U.S. president. Libya's request for strikes would make it all right under international law if only there were a Libyan government. The UN has just designated a so-called unity government, which is yet to be approved by the Libyan parliament.
There are many who say the U.S.'s first intervention in Libya in 2011 has made its second intervention now necessary. What do you say to that?
I disagree because no one's talking about a second intervention. We've certainly seen a certain amount of instability occur because of that lack of a centralized government. And so that's what we're working toward. That's what we're focused on. So I don't want to point it to one act or one, this was something that evolved out of the chaos of Gaddafi's departure and death. And so, but our focus now is on getting a legitimate government in place.
The Obama administration indicates that there will be more strikes in Libya against ISIL, but does not want it to look like another U.S. intervention in Libya. The bottom line is, 5 years after the U.S. helped bomb Gaddafi out of power, it's back to Libya bombing terrorists now.
ISIL has been capitalizing on the country's turmoil, already gaining a foothold in the key city of Sirte and cementing its control of lucrative oil fields in the north. However, a legitimate basis for the U.S. strikes is proving a bit tough to come by, even for the Pentagon.
Under what authority was this strike carried out? There's no AUMF for ISIS in Libya. No Americans were killed in the 2 attacks in Tunisia. Under what authority?
Well, again, we've struck in Libya previously under the existing use of force, the authorization for the use of military force, and we believe that this was based on was legal under international law.
But you're saying that you're using the 2001 AUMF against al-Qaeda to go after ISIS in Libya.
Again, specifically here, we believe that this was carried out under international law, and also specifically that this operation was consistent with domestic and international law, and that this operation was conducted with the knowledge of Libyan authorities.
There are dozens of authorities in Libya. I have no idea who they talk to. There is an internationally recognized government in Tobruk in the east, which is basically anti-Islamic. I suspect that's who we, quote, talk to. But there's also another so-called government based in Tripoli, which is more Islamist in nature. I doubt we talk to them. Then, of course, there is the tribal system in Libya, which was very apparent when I worked there as a diplomat. It's complete chaos.
We're trying to build an effective authority. When I say we, the world is trying to build an effective authority. The United Nations have been negotiating for months to put together a new Libyan government, and I hope they'll succeed, but they haven't quite succeeded yet.
Violence has spiraled across Libya since the uprising, which was supported by a NATO air campaign and ultimately led to the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi's government 5 years ago.
We came, we saw, he died.
Showed the world you would get rid of a dictator and you would choose freedom. Vive Benghazi! Vive la Libye!
دولة الإسلام قامت